go through this, hopefully this is more of a discussion between us, question and answers, and I'd love to learn just as much from you guys as you can learn from me. So I'll talk a little bit about it. If you want to stop me at any point during my presentation, please ask a question. Don't wait till the end. Feel free to jump right in. Sometimes I say some stupid stuff, so don't be afraid to call me out on it. But anyway, King's Ransom Farm has been in our family for 4 generations since. Got to make sure I know how I'm going to control this. For 4 generations, been dairy farming in the area in our little spot in eastern New York since the late 1800s. More recently, my brother and I started King Brothers Dairy, which is our retail business where we bottle milk and produce ice cream. When the folks from Minnesota Holstein asked me to come out and visit a little bit, I thought, well, I don't do these presentations very often. I better think of some good things to say. I better focus on this and hopefully not look stupid in front of all the people who are going to take some time to come out and listen. So late one night, I sat down with a piece of paper, a little book, and started writing down some ideas. Maybe I can talk about this, and maybe I can talk about that. The later the night went, the harder I worked. And it turns out my wife for Christmas gave me a great book to record some of those really smart things that I was writing down late at night. But unfortunately, after I went back and read that book, probably the bourbon had too much to do with what I was writing down. So I decided to scrap all of that and just kind of start from the basic stuff. So let me tell you a little bit about our operation. This is our farm here in eastern New York. We're not too far from the state of Vermont, maybe a 20-minute drive. Like I said, we've been farming since the late 1800s. My father graduated from Cornell University in the early 60s. And at that time, my family was dairying in a location just around the corner. And in the early 60s, he came back to this site. And so you can see that we are a very traditional dairy. And here's the tie stall barn that he built in the early 60s and milked about 50 Guernseys in that barn. So we have seen the evolution of the dairy industry here on our farm, very much like everyone else has who's been in the industry that long. Later on in the early 70s, he built this freestall barn right here. And that's where the freestall and a double-4 parlor were built in 72. And in the early 70s, that's when he started to transition from Guernseys over to Holsteins. So growing up on the farm, from myself and my brothers as youngsters, we grew up on a very traditional 120 to 150 cow traditional registered Holstein dairy. Showed some heifers and cows at the local county fair, and that was about it. My brother and I'm one of 4 brothers. 2 of us came back to the dairy in the early 90s after we graduated from college, and we started to make some expansions. So you can see the 2 larger freestall barns in the back. That started to happen in the 90s. We gradually built up to about 1,100 cows. And if you were to look at this picture today, you'd see another freestall barn that we recently built, which is going to take us a little bit larger. And also you can see that this original freestall barn is now our milk processing plant, and this would be our retail store on the front. So a few things have changed over more recent years, but pretty much the same farmstead. Today, we're at about 1,150 cows, and we've got a plan. We're going to get to somewhere around 1,400, 1,500 cows. This is a picture I took in the new freestall barn just last week. Sand-bedded freestalls. We're going to be adding about 300 stalls, and then pretty soon thereafter, probably another 300 stalls. We work about 3,000 acres. I talked a little bit earlier today about where we're at in New York State, and unfortunately, we're in a spot that really likes to grow houses way better than growing corn. So it's something that we have to deal with in our neck of the woods. We're very close to Saratoga Springs, which is a nice little resort community. We're about 10 minutes away. Kind of a high-income area. A lot of people like to come there to visit during the summer. So we made the decision a few years ago, if we were going to be able to really expand our business, the idea of doing what folks are doing here in South Dakota and getting to 5, 10, 20,000 is not a reality where we're at. So we tried to figure out what else can we do to capitalize on our location, and that's where our work in the retail business came in. So anyway, we're in a double 20 parabone parlor. It's very old. Actually, a piece of that original double 4 parlor that was built in 1972 is still part of our parlor today. We put very little investment in our parlor because we really need to build a new one at some point. We're running in the low 90s. Our components have been off the chart. We've been really excited with what we're getting for components and feed efficiency. And we're doing all that right now. 50% overcrowded in our freestall barns. Luckily, we've got a barn in process. We're going to be able to depopulate cows and get them a little more space. Sand-bedded freestalls has been a really important part of what we've done. We really appreciate the cow comfort that we get from sand bedding. A few more herd stats. Pretty high first lactation, 42% as of the end of 2023. We average about 23 months. We're trying to move that down to 22 months age of first calving. We run, for years, we've run a pretty low cull rate. We really, again, the sand bedding, we think contributes to that. And that low cull rate combined with a really high number of heifers. So when we've been running around 1,000 cows, we've traditionally been carrying 12 to 1,300 head of heifers. We do that because we're very active in embryo transfer. So we're looking for as many embryo recips as we can use. So that's why we've carried more heifers than the average herd. But when you've got a low cull rate and a lot of heifers, you've got lots of extra cows. So we've developed a pretty good market for fresh cows. Some of those go to Canada, some in our local area, and that's translated into pretty good repeat business from customers who bought from us in the past. So for the last 3-4 years, we've sold about 300 head for dairy every single year, and every year we seem to be able to move that price up a little bit. Really, a lot of repeat customers. And for for a larger herd, I think sometimes people think, well, those big dairies, they don't really care much about the cows they milk, but type is really important to us. And we counted up the other day, we've got 136 excellent cows in the herd. And some high scoring cows, 94 and 95 point cows in the freestall. And of course, also with a low cull rate, for me, old cows are really important as well. And old cows are what make you money. Old cows produce a lot of milk, even though they might not be the best genetic animals in the herd. Those mature cows still make a lot of milk. So our oldest cow is 13 and a half years old. She's still producing. We just checked her pregnant the other day, 334,000 lifetime. And I said earlier today, this number surprised me. The other day when I counted up the number of cows over 200,000, we've got 34 cows over 200,000. So that shows the quality of people we've got working for us. We've got a tremendous team. I've got a son that works with me on the farm, but also the rest of the people that work with the cows. We're pretty focused on cow comfort, taking good care of cows, and hopefully getting the most out of them in their lifetime. So,
yeah, Jeff.
Sure.
On those older cows, are they just running in the freestall, or do you have a special needs area for those older cows?
They are all in the freestall. All of those cows, those 94 point cows, the 95 point cow doesn't live there right now because she's at a guy's kind of got her for a show in a show barn. But the rest of those 94 point cows are all running in 50% overcrowded freestalls. I'm not proud of that, but that's the way it works. And everybody, one of our popular cows, Mogul Cleavage, 95 point Mogul, spent every single day of her life in those freestalls. Never lived in a box stall one day of her life. So when we talk about those cows, we want cows that are going to be able to perform in those conditions for us. So a little bit more on our herd. Like a lot of herds, we're using more sex semen. A few years ago, when you couldn't get the high quality bulls, I want to use the very best bulls for our herd, without a doubt. And years ago, you couldn't get the very best bulls sexed. Now, we can pretty much get most of the best bulls sexed. So we're using more sex semen. We're using more beef on dairy in our herd as well. We're really got an active embryo transfer program. And for about 4 years, we've had an OPU facility for Bovatech IVF work. We work about 40 to 50 donors. Those would be my donors. I also house some donors for some other people, and then we have some people that haul in donors as well. We work 2 days one week and 1 day the next, but we'll do 40 to actually 70 donors, depending on the week. We make a lot of embryos, you gotta have a lot of recipients, and we use a lot of our first and second lactation animals for recipients. Same number on virgin heifers, probably about 80% of our virgin heifers we use for recipients. And we were talking about cutoffs. I had a friend of mine getting after me. He said, "Why are you using this heifer for a recipient?" But she, our cutoff is at about 3,050 GTPI. So it's a pretty high GTPI level, but we're still putting embryos in those high heifers just because the embryos are actually coming from higher donors. We've learned double valve sync works really well, especially when we're syncing a lot of recipients for embryo transfer. We just switched to SCR collars. We use a different collar system. We're real happy now with the new collar system that we've been using both for heat detection and for health work. And in general, our diets, we grow about 60–70% of our corn silage is BMR, the rest is conventional. So we've got a pretty high digestibility corn silage that we work with. We plant an alfalfa grass mixture. Straight alfalfa in our neck of the world is a little bit hard. We get a lot of moisture, average about 48 inches of moisture of rainfall every year. So sometimes that alfalfa can get a little bit of wet feet. We use a lot of tile drainage to try to counteract that, but grass tends to do better. So 3–4 years into a seeding, our grass levels are coming up and the alfalfa levels coming down. So, but we got a pretty aggressive cutting schedule. We get about 5 cuts a year. We've increased that in recent years. Our forage quality's gotten better. So that's good, and it allows us to feed a lot of forage in our diet.
What kind of grass do you use, Jeff?
Reed canary, for the most part. We found that that works pretty well for nutrient uptake, and a few years ago when we weren't quite as aggressive, we were maybe about 5 days longer on our cut interval. We did okay. When we really cut that down, we're 28 days or less, and that's really pushed the digestibility of that haylage up. So over time that might change, but right now that's what seems to be working for us. So a little bit about our breeding program. We want genetics that are going to perform for us first and foremost. We want genetics for cows that are going to make cows that are really profitable, but not only for us. We sell a lot of genetics, so we want cows that are profitable for us and for other people as well. People that are going to buy our genetics in the form of semen from our bulls, in the form of embryos, in the form of fresh cows. Cow in the background here, this is the 95-point daughter of cleavage, and if I could have every cow in the herd with an udder like that, that's really what I'm not there yet, but that's something, a goal that we strive for. But in general, we want cows that are going to produce a huge amount of milk with great components. High pounds of fat, high pounds of protein. It's got to come with good percentages, but also a lot of pounds of milk. We want cows with medium frames, not too much stature, lots of width through the front end, lots of width through the rear end, with exceptional udders. I put this picture of this cow up because she's a 2-year-old that we have in our herd right now, and I think she kind of exemplifies what we're looking for. She's not super tall for a young cow, great width in the front end, deep open rib, and not only a good udder, but I also point out she's got a little bit of extra condition. And she's not a cow that you're going to run out in the show ring because she's not quite sharp and clean enough, but those are the kind of cows for us that are going to breed back and do well at calving and produce really well. When we think about the genetics also that we want to produce, we think further into it, management traits, fertility, things like DPR, cow conception rate, longevity traits, productive life, disease resistance. We talk about some of the zoetis traits, the mastitis resistance, and calving traits, and displaced abomasum. Those all start to play into our decision making, and I think more and more feed efficiency is the data's coming, the data's getting better and better, and I think that feed efficiency is gonna be something where over the next few years, we get a lot better, information, better data that will be better tools for us to use in our sire selection. So, and for those who are curious, the cow people in the world, I always wanna know who's the cow in the picture, and I'm not good enough with PowerPoint to put a banner in the bottom. So you're talking about an old guy who's not very good with IT, but she is a King Doc, 88.2-year-old from a 91 crushable, from a cow that I'll show you here in a bit, a Delta, the same family as Dropbox at CMEX. We kind of divide up our matings in our breeding program to some that are more genomic focused and some that are a little bit more type focused. On the genomic side, it's really, we start with TPI, because I really believe TPI does the best job of sorting genetics for us. And about 70% of those matings are kind of TPI genomic focused. The donors that we're working with between 30 and 45 donors on a regular basis. Most of them are going to be virgin heifers. Pretty much all of them are over 3,100 TPI and over 1,100 net merit. We look at A2, beta casein in our fluid milk business. It's not only important for marketing, but really for our fluid milk business. We don't do anything to market A2 milk, but we're really paying attention to it in our breeding program, and we're trying to emphasize that because at some point we think we could use it. So, about 60-70% of our milking herd right now is A2. So that continues to go up. We really try to find the very highest bulls available to do these matings. Quite often the bull studs have the highest bulls available. We work with select sires, we work with CMEX, we work a little bit with Alta Genetics and some of the other small studs. But we also look for bulls that are unrestricted, so-called kind of free agent bulls, so that we can make genetics that don't necessarily have restriction. It really is something that I avoid, is working with early release semen from bull studs that are going to have a restriction on a resulting offspring. That's just a personal thing that I've tried to avoid. I think a lot of times the perception is when you're doing high genomic matings, somebody takes the very highest heifer they can find, the very highest bull, and they just start doing high on high on high on high on high all the time. And we really try to pay it a little more attention. We really want to push high genetics, but we try to make the right kind of matings. We try to think of the strengths and weaknesses of each one of those, the donor, the service sire, and try to mate them appropriately so that hopefully we're going to have really good results at the end and not too many train wrecks, because I think when you don't pay attention to matings, you can have a lot of garbage result from that. So we certainly consider cow families. There are bulls from certain cow families that I won't use just because I'm not a fan of the cow family. So we do take that into consideration. And all these matings we make thinking about what's our future market with those genetics. We sell bulls to AI. We sell bulls, lease bulls to AI studs. We have some embryo sales, whether it's domestic embryos or international embryo sales. And we also sell some high-priced females from every once in a while. So we have to think about the marketability of those genetics that we're producing. But more importantly, we're also making members for our own herd. We're making future herd members. So again, when I say I try to avoid those mistakes, I'm going to be milking every single one of those resulting females that we mate. So I try to make very few mistakes. I really want to push the bar on what we're going to produce in our own herd, but also what we're going to have available. Since we're selling a lot of cows, we want to have really good quality cows to sell too. So there's a lot of things to take into consideration. I think sometimes you take a bull stud, for example, when they're just making matings, they might not have to consider, they don't have to milk the results of those matings that they make. I do, so I'm a little more cautious when we make those matings. On the other side of things, we do a section of our herd. We kind of breed for higher type matings. The donors are going to be a little lower on GTPI, but they're going to be higher type. And really, when I talk about type, I tend to use the word crossover a little bit more. It's not exclusive all-inclusive high type matings. I'm gonna be trying to push both high type with good amounts of production, those management traits and so forth. So to me, they're gonna try to combine the best of both worlds. Pretty good TPI in the donors, really wanna push the type levels. I love to see my donors that I select from our herd over 3 points on type and udder. And for me, udder composite is more important than the PTAT. We think about especially some of these traits that can cause me problems and headaches. I don't like high pin cattle. I don't like animals that are really too short in the teats. I don't like excessively straight rear legs. So some of those individual traits we really try to hone in on and really make the right matings. A lot of donors that we're working with are from some of our better cow families, Mogul, Cleo, and Cleavage, two full sisters. Delta Destiny and her daughter, Casper Days, we've got a good number from that family. And of course, the Doc Have Not family is a family that we invested in recently, and we've got some donors from that family too. So not all of our high type donors are from those families, but they're kind of the main ones in general. And when we think about bulls that we're using, I mentioned it again, I would much rather use bulls that have an udder composite higher than their type value. I don't love to use bulls. Years ago, I thought, boy, we're gonna improve our cows, we're gonna use some high type bulls. And we used bulls that were extreme on type with kind of mediocre udder composite. And the resulting animals that I got just weren't good enough for me. We got cows that were, I think, high type, ended up with big frames, with, you take a bull that might be 3.7 on type, but only 2 on udder. To me, I got animals with big frames and average udders. And I'd much rather find a bull that's 3 and 3, or even better, 2.8 on type and 3.4 on udder. To me, those are gonna be cows a little bit more medium frame, but they're gonna bring through exceptional udders. And I had one of the highest compliments paid to me from a guy in Canada when I met him at World Dairy Expo this last year. And he says, yeah, King's Ransom, you're the guys with the good udders. And I said, there you go. As long as I can be known as the place with the good udders, I'm happy. But we really intensify our selection on that. So in general, when we're picking bulls, and this is no matter for the type matings or for the genomic matings, I generally start with TPI on the sire selection side. I think TPI gives us a chance to kind of do an initial sort. It brings a lot of the important traits for me into the formula. I think about net merit, but there's a few pieces of net merit that I'm not a fan of. So I'll use a little bit. I think there's net merit, you consider some traits pretty well, but also brings in some other traits that I'm not a fan of. One of those would be some of the feed efficiency, relative feed intake and so forth. I'm not a fan of because I think it really pushes for small, narrow cattle. So I consider net merit in the matings. The linear traits I talked about before are important when we're picking bulls. Things like DWP caseins, both A2 and Kappa casein. We look for bulls that are A2, we look for bulls that are BB or AB on Kappa casein. DWP, if you don't know what that is, that's a Zoetis trait that brings in a lot of health traits. That's dairy wellness profit. It's kind of like net merit, but it brings in things like calving ease, mastitis resistance, resistance to retained placenta, lameness, a lot of management traits, health traits that I use that as a tiebreaker. If I find 2 bulls that I like and one of them has a little bit better health numbers, I'll tend to go with a bull with a little bit better health numbers. Like I said, cow families are important not only on the donor side, but on the sire selection side. And when I think about picking bulls, I wrote up here, I live it. And I've got a good friend at home, and we're 2 of the most passionate people that I know of about the Holstein breed and sire selection and cow families. So we're always talking to each other. We're bouncing ideas off each other. You hear this piece of news, have you seen this new bull? We're always talking about what's new, trying to compare notes. And sometimes that rolls into phone calls at 9 o'clock at night when I'm sitting there talking to my friend or my brother about bulls, and then my wife says, "What in the world is your problem? Can't you spend a little bit of time with me?" So you gotta keep the wife happy too. So sometimes you gotta hang up the phone and live life a little bit and put the Holstein business aside. But we live it, we eat it, breathe it, sleep it. We were classifying just the other day, and I just pulled my phone out, and this was a pen of 2-year-olds, and I thought, well, this would be cool. I'll just video down through here some of the cows that we've got to do. And I thought it would be interesting. These are going to be cows in our herd. They're about 9 hours of milk in them. We held them out of the parlor. But a group of 2-year-olds, and these are going to be the kind of cows that we sell as fresh cows to people. These are going to be mainly embryo recipients in our herd. But I think it shows. Well, play that for me? Yeah, I've been trying that. Look at that, I was doing all the right stuff. Played earlier today, so yeah.
What about that like video camera in the right there? Where's that there? Oh, like that.
Well, that's okay. It's just a video of a few 2-year-olds. We won't worry about it.
I was gonna say, do that.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not that big a deal. Well, no, it's okay. We'll skip right ahead. Anyway, just call that a video of some 2-year-olds in the freestyle. No big deal. I'll just cover a few cow families from our breeding program that we've worked with pretty hard over the years. Mogul Cleavage is a cow that probably put us on the map. She was an early daughter of Mogul. When he was just having his first milking daughter, she was one of the early ones. And as I've told people, one of the interesting things to me is some of our best cows and our best cow families on the type side have really resulted from matings that I would have really said were genomic matings. We bought her Goldwyn Dam as a pick a flush, and back in the day, she was high enough to kind of be considered a bull mother for bull studs. So for select sires at the time, we were flushing this Goldwyn to various bulls as a heifer, and we ended up using Mogul on her. And it really, in the day, was really more of a genomic type TPI mating. Well, obviously it made a really good cow who was the head of a good family for us. So Cleavage ended up being an 89.2-year-old, and obviously 95 is an older cow. She was really popular with visitors. As a really early daughter of one of the most popular bulls at the time, she garnered a lot of attention, and we were able to sell a lot of embryos, which was cool because she was also a great embryo producer. There's nothing better than having a cow on demand that doesn't want to make embryos, but she really made embryos. So she's got a little over 100 registered daughters in the U.S. To date, 29 of them are excellent, and she's got 6 that are 94 or 95 points, and that's to date. There's going to be some more excellent daughters that come along over time. The fun thing on this cow is we've sold embryos all over the world, and every once in a while I'll get a picture or a video from somebody in a country, it's Spain or Italy or Germany, who bought some embryos, and they're as proud as could be of their daughter Cleavage. It's really cool. She's quite an ambassador for our herd all the way around the world. We didn't ever do a lot of bull matings. We did all female flushes on this cow. She had very few sons, and even her granddaughters. So we don't have a lot of bulls in AI. More recently, we've been making some more bulls, but a few bulls in AI. Corona at CMEX, he's a son of Alley-Oop and making some really fancy calves from what the folks at CMEX are telling me. Cadillac is a bull, her grandson that's been at select sires. And I think the oldest daughters are getting to be about breeding age, and then Camaro is a high jump grandson of cleavage that's at Blondin, and they've sold a fair bit of semen out of him as well. A few of our better daughters of cleavage, it's really fun when you walk through the herd, and there's a good one, and there's a good, well, shoot, they're all cleavage family, you know, and it just shows the breeding power of the cow family. But the cow in the upper left is a 95-point daughter. She's a Monterey. My daughter's shown her a fair bit. She's actually due back this spring. One of the hallmarks of the family is their crazy high fat percentage. This cow up here, another daughter by King Royal of cleavage, she's 94. She just finished 2 records of 2,100 pounds of fat and like 5'1", 5'2" fat. She just calved again and milking tremendously well. We've got a whole bunch of daughters and embryos out of her. Another 94-point daughter is the Helix over here, the black cow. She was over 50,000 of milk and 2,200 pounds of fat. Tremendous production. And we've got a drop box daughter of her that we're going to be working with. And then this cow's a King Boy daughter, a 94-point King Boy of cleavage, also with a bunch of daughters that we're working with. And she's like 96 of her memory. So just a few of her better daughters that we work with, and it's been a really fun family. Her full sister, Mogul Cleo, was also 95. So for a time we had 2 full sisters running in freestyle, both 95. It was kind of a nice novelty to have. A little bit of a slower maturing cow. Wasn't as popular as a young cow, but she got better and better and better. So we didn't flush this cow as much. She's got fewer daughters, made fewer embryos, but still was a pretty good producer. She's got 16 excellent daughters so far, 4 94-point daughters, including this King Doc down here on the lower level. She actually had 2 King Docs that are both 94 out of Cleo. Another family, this is the family of Dropbox and a few other pretty popular bulls in AI. Delta Destiny, again, a family that was really a high genomic family that ended up making some tremendous type for us. Her Dorsey Grandam was 94, and when she was a young calf, she was one of the highest GTPI calves in the breed. We ended up breeding her to Doorman, and then the Delta was a tremendous brood cow for us. Bunch of excellent daughters. She's the Grandam of Dream Big, who's a St. Jacob's highest selling bull into Australia at the moment. And her crushable daughter down here in the lower left was Junior All-American for my nephew a couple years ago. She's calving back soon. So Destiny's been a really big impact cow. And her most popular daughter so far is this Casper daughter, Days. Really an impressive cow, and probably our most in-demand cow in the herd right now. We've got a whole bunch of young daughters. Her oldest daughter is 88, is a 2-year-old. Got a whole bunch of daughters calving in, but really her claim to fame is a few of her sons. Dropbox is her high jump son. The neat thing about this bull is AOT High Jump is a bull that was owned by my brother and his partner, and that whole family was also developed in my herd. So we're milking a bunch of high jumps, and I think it's just the neatest mating. Dropbox at CMEX, he's certainly really popular, hard to get semen right now. And I'm hearing from a lot of people how happy they are with the calves, really like the calves on the ground. So I'm hopeful that he makes a big impact on the breed. And then of course, this bull is at Holstein Marketplace Sires. He's another son of Casper Days, and his name is Dreamy. And really, he is very similar to Dropbox. Dropbox, I think, he, for me, a really balanced bull. Good production. His type is really high, not only for type, but also for udder composite. Fertility numbers are pretty good. I really don't like bulls with really bad DPR numbers. And the fertility numbers on both of these bulls are pretty good. I like the linears. They're not too tall or not super high in the pins. A lot of those things that kind of checks the boxes for me. Probably the only difference between Dreamy and Dropbox is this bull's a little lower on milk pounds, but still, I love the linear profile. And Holstein is selling a fair bit of it. We just calved in two full sisters of this bull as 2-year-olds that are really, really nice young cows. We've also had the chance to be involved in some partnerships. Like I said, I got a really good friend who's a semen salesman, and he's one of those guys when you're at a cow sale, it'll be something selling, he'll say, hey, you want to buy this one together, you want to buy this one, and we ended up in some partnerships. So my partnership with him is Higher Ransom. He has another partnership called AOT, again, the cow family that produced High Jump and some other really impactful animals in the breed. We milk all the AOT animals. They're owned by my brother and my friend, the semen salesman. So we tend to milk them because neither one of them milk cows. And then the most recent partnership, we got into this cow, the world record seller, Have It All, the 96-point dock, and that's been just really fun. It's, again, a cow family. She brings tremendous type, but also the ability, not only the ability to show in the show ring and compete at the highest level, but she's made a lot of sons that will be competitive in AI. So we invested in this cow and a number of her daughters. We're gonna have 30 sons that end up going to AI out of the cow and her daughter. So she's gonna hopefully have a pretty big impact on the breed. And unfortunately, we lost her just this last year at World Dairy Expo time, but we're gonna still have a number of daughters that are pretty fun to work with. So, and like Have Not, we do like to show, this is my family here, my three kids and my niece and my nephew, standing here with my parents in the middle. And, you know, everybody, for those of us in the room who've shown cows, you know, you go to a cow show and it's the middle of summer and it's 95, and our non-farm friends are wondering, what the heck is your problem? You're going away from home, you're gonna work even harder at the show in 95-degree weather while we're going off to the campground and we're gonna have fun with our friends. But showing cows is our camping, so it's our family fun, I guess. But we like to do it a little bit. Some success we had, this cow up here is a Delta Lambda, and she was nominated All-American this year. She was our first homebred nominated All-American individually. And we've also been lucky to get 3 nominations for All-American Best 3 Females. And to me, that's pretty special. As a breeder of cows, when you can put together a really good group of cows, to have 3 All-American nominations to me is kind of the icing on the cake. But I just wish that I knew how to do Photoshop and I could cut that guy off and make a much better picture. So I'm going to hit a little bit about King Brothers Dairy, but feel free to ask questions along the way. Our retail business, our family history goes way back. And my grandfather had 8 brothers and sisters. Only 2 of them ever got married. So the other 6, they lived together their entire adult lives. All worked on the farm together. So back in the day, our family milked some cows, they raised some hogs, they had some horses, they cut timber. It was, you know, a very multi-faceted agricultural organization. So it just happened to be my grandfather was one of the few that got married. And he ended up being the milkman in the bunch. So if you go around the local city, if you find some really old people, they still remember my grandfather, who was that guy back there, being their milkman way back in the 40s and 50s. It's kind of neat. So our family has had a history of bottling milk in our area. They stopped bottling milk because my father, this guy, they thought was not going to come home to the farm. They thought he was going to take an off-farm job. So they quit bottling milk right before he came home from college. He switched courses, ended up coming home. They kept milking cows, but they sold the bottling operation in the late 50s, early 60s. But this is what they used to deliver milk with. This old pickup truck, throw the cases of milk in there, throw some ice on top, cover it with a tarp, and off to town they went. So in 2010, my brother and I decided to get back into the retail business, and we started delivering a little bit of milk out of the back of an old pickup truck, very much like, not that truck, but his old pickup truck, to some neighbors and some friends. We found a guy about an hour and a half away who would bottle a little bit of milk for us, and we got into the home delivery business. It was our attempt to get into the retail business without spending too much. Our business grew a little bit. We finally built our on-farm plant 6 years later in 2016. And then 4 years later, we built our on-farm ice cream parlor and farm store. So that started in 2020. So it's been fairly recent. Today, about a quarter of our milk's going through our own milk plant. 3/4 of the milk goes to the co-op. Our home delivery continues, and we deliver all kinds of food items in addition to our milk. So beef, pork, chicken, eggs, cheese, frozen pizzas, all kinds of stuff, kind of like a farmer's market on wheels. And we offer all those things for sale in our store as well. There's water. Our store's open year-round, so we don't close the ice cream down during the winter. And actually, this weekend, we've got a really popular event. It's called Ice Cream for Breakfast. So this Saturday, National Ice Cream for Breakfast Day is a nationwide holiday. So we'll get probably 800 people that come to our place both on Saturday and Sunday. We tell them all dress up in pajamas, and they'll come out at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning and have various breakfast-themed ice cream dishes for breakfast. And it's kind of a fun deal. Our community's really gotten so they come out. Last year it was 20 below, 17 below on Saturday, 20 below on Sunday, and the line was 45 minutes long to get into the ice cream store. And then once you got in the store, there was another half an hour of line inside the store. So anyway, it's kind of fun. Our milk products go to a lot of small stores, small restaurant, decent-sized restaurants in our area, some bigger food service accounts, and we also are getting into more and more retailers. We're in about 50. We're going to get into about 20 more supermarkets here shortly. So we distribute all of our own products to all of these different areas. This is our farm store here. It's an old freestall barn that we gutted, and it's really cool. I should have taken some more pictures inside. My wife and a few other people got some really neat decorations, and it's kind of a neat experience to come into. Most people, when you first come in, they're like, "Whoa, it's just different and very inviting and fun." We try to have a lot of fun with our ice cream products. We make about 100 flavors of ice cream. At any one time, about 40 of them are available in our store. And we not only try to produce super premium ice cream, but really fun and different flavors. So it gives people a reason to drive out to the country versus going to the local Ben & Jerry's store in town. So we've got flavors like Just Take My Money, fun names, Twixieland Delight, a lot of different flavors. Some seasonal flavors, caramel apple pie would be a fall seasonal flavor, and then we replace that with Christmas flavors later on in the season. So we try to have fun with it. We try to bring some different, new, out of the ordinary flavors to it. A couple things that we did a couple years ago, every year our state has a milk competition, and we were lucky enough to win some awards for our milk quality as well, which allowed us to do some advertising. So we were the number ones. They do a separate category for the little guys. And so we won for the number one white milk for the small processor category, but more importantly, we won for number one chocolate milk out of everybody. So that was fun and allows us to chat about it with our customers from time to time. So the products we make glass bottled milk, plastic bottled milk, both, because a lot of stores won't even talk about taking glass. They'll say only plastic or nothing. Half and half heavy cream. Buttermilk here in the yellow bottle. It's a cultured buttermilk that we make and use a lot for baking. And then these are some of our ice cream products. Ice cream pies over there on the left, and ice cream cakes. We make custom to order. We make our own soft serve mix, so we have our own soft serve ice cream, our own hard ice cream that we just talked about. We make our own waffle cones, and then we sell ice cream by the quart, and soon sell it by the 3-gallon tub as well. Cookie Monster, that's our most popular flavor. White chocolate flavored ice cream. It's colored blue like Cookie Monster. And here we are at the home of cookies and cream. Well, this is Oreo cookies and chocolate chip cookie dough in that white chocolate flavored ice cream. So it's our most popular flavor. It's pretty good. I eat it way too much. But it takes a lot of family involvement too. So this is my wife. She runs, she oversees what goes on in the store. She oversees a lot of what goes on the business side of our retail business. She's also, she's come up with a lot of the flavors and does some of the marketing. Another neat thing we do, we just started ice cream flights not long ago, so if you go to a local brewery and get the beer flight, we do ice cream flights, which we thought was a great idea. We thought it was gonna be pretty unique, but then a bunch of the other ice cream shops in the area picked right up on the idea, so it wasn't long that before we weren't the only ones doing ice cream flights. But we also do some food items, hot soup during the cold months of the year. We just started doing grilled cheese sandwiches, and I put the picture up here because I hate having grilled cheese where it's all crust and like no cheese. I want cheese all the way to the edge. And so I told the girls who were coming up with the menu, I said, just make sure there's enough cheese that it gets all the way to the edge. And they did a good job of it. They're really good. I eat them probably a little too often. We really try to stay involved in our local community because it's really, you know, we're out in the country and it takes people a little bit of effort to come to our place to have ice cream. So we really try to engage the local community. Safer would be our local food pantry. We worked out a deal with them every holiday. We will take in canned food items and all that kind of stuff for people that are in need, and then we double all of that ourselves to give back a little bit more to the community. We also do a really cool thing. I love this. It's called Scooping for Scholarships. We get these kids that'll scoop ice cream for us quite often for 2-3 years throughout high school. So when they get to be high school seniors, we do one night a year where we tell the whole community, come on out to support the kids. All the proceeds from ice cream sales in that one night and all the tips all get divided up to the high school seniors. So we've had nights where these seniors will end up with $1,200–1,500 in scholarship based on the ice cream sales. And it's really neat when you see some people from the community come in, they'll buy ice cream for the whole family and then they'll leave a $50 bill in a tip jar for the kids too. So it's been really cool. The kids love it, but the community loves giving back to these kids that they're used to seeing in the shop. So engaging the community is pretty important. Little view into our bottling facility. Those are our 2 bottle fillers. One's for plastic, one for glass bottles. I took this picture just to emphasize the job that our crew does. They do a tremendous job of keeping our plant just immaculate. And we get inspectors from the state on a regular basis, and we're always getting really high grades from the inspectors. It takes a lot of effort, but when you do a better job, I think we have an advantage in our milk product because we not only have tremendous raw milk quality on the farm, we also do a great job in the plant. So when you combine all those things, you end up with milk coming out of there with longer shelf life and better taste. And because we can control all of those things in-house, you know, the average big milk plant, you might be getting milk from a really well-run farm and some milk from some farms that aren't as well-run, and that all gets blended together. So we've got that little bit of advantage. We don't have many advantages, but that's one of the advantages that we have. So takes a lot of effort. This is my brother. He oversees the plant and the distribution. Got a couple of glass bottled milk bottles in his hands, and a few more pictures from the plant. Milk coming off the line, bottle going through the bottle filler. It just takes a lot of effort. We get a lot of regulation. You know, as dairy farmers, we think we have a lot of regulation from environmental groups and labor and all that, but in the milk business, it's like that regulation times 10. Because we've got the health department and different environmental groups and OSHA safety groups, and it seems like every time we turn around we're getting inspected. So a lot of stuff to keep track of. It's fun. We have fun stuff going on for the kids that work for us. We have crazy names for our ice cream, winning awards for milk, and it's all great, but we still have a lot of challenges in this business, just like dairy farming. We are always challenged to keep continually growing because we built this milk plant for a lot more capacity than we are currently putting through it. It's kind of like building 1,000 cow dairy and only putting about 300 cows into the barns. We're not taking advantage of that capacity we have. So that's a challenge for us to continue growing our sales to use up and maximize the capacity of the plant that we have. Staffing, we all know it's an ongoing challenge in today's day and age. finding people to scoop ice cream, to deliver milk, to move bottles around the plant. It's an ongoing challenge. Our distribution costs is something we're always working on. Fuel, insurance, staffing, labor, cost of vehicles. Other companies that are distributing larger amounts have a little bit more advantage than we do. It's one of the disadvantages we have as a small company. And of course, I talked about the regulations, but one of the biggest things is we got into the fluid milk business. We all know what's fluid milk consumption doing. Slowly going down. So here we are trying to grow our fluid milk business in a market where people are drinking less milk. There's more and more competition in the beverage market every single day. The only way that we get new customers is we need to take customers from people who are drinking some other brand of milk. It's a challenge. It's hopefully we are presenting them with a better product that tastes better. And I think once we get them to try our product, quite often they'll stay with us. Our sales are slowly increasing, but it's not something where if you introduce this brand new product into the marketplace that nobody's ever had before, all of a sudden you sell a whole bunch. We're not brand new. We have to slowly get people over on our side. So that's another challenge. But at the end of the day, it really, whether you're talking ice cream and milk or whether you're talking cattle genetics, it's really all about having satisfied customers. This is a little Facebook post from some people who had an ice cream flight, and if you can't read it, he's basically talking about how great the ice cream was, how clean the shop was, how great the people were that served them, and all those things add up to when you have satisfied customers at the end of the day. That's what makes it all worth it. We work hard to take care of our animals, to put in good crops, to produce high quality milk, and then put it through a milk plant, produce high quality products, and put a great product in front of people. When people turn around and say, this was awesome, this was the best ice cream I've ever had, this was the best chocolate milk I've ever had, that's when it's kind of all worth it. That's when it all comes back and makes you feel good. And on the cow side of things, this was just a couple weeks ago. The cow in the picture is actually a daughter of our cleavage cow. We sold some embryos to some folks in Australia, and she just won Reserve Intermediate Champion at International Dairy Week, which is the big national cow show in Australia. So a daughter of one of our cows sold by an embryo, and of course they're ecstatic with the results. So that's what it's all about. It's nice when that was well timed on their part. It was 2 weeks before the presentation. I appreciate that. But anyway, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. Hopefully not everybody's asleep. Some are, but I'd be happy to talk about any questions if anybody has any.
What's
Thanks
your
for
total
coming.
labor force, do you know?
What's that?
Your total labor force on
Yeah.
both your manufacturing and the farm
So
side?
we're about 20 full-time and a few part-time on the farm side, and about 45 on the plant, and overall with everything, delivery, production, farm store, so 65 to 70 total, which is way more than I ever thought that I'd ever have. So we now have a full-time HR person. I never thought I'd have an HR person.
So
Yes, sir.
you were talking about expanding your dairy, 400 cows, so I'm assuming you're gonna milk 600 more in a year or two from now, with 50% overcrowding. Are you having a hard time finding a market for that milk, like we have here in South Dakota and Minnesota? We can't really expand because there's no market.
So, just recently, DFA, we were a DFA member, they changed, we had a quota, where we weren't really necessarily restricted. We had a quota, and they wanted us to produce 90% of that quota, and anything above that, they would charge us the market charges, which during COVID got to be extremely high. They now changed, so it's a spring over spring, so anything for 4 months during 4 or 5 months in the spring, if you produce over last spring, they're gonna charge you the market charge, which sounds like $6, $7 a hundredweight. So we're gonna make more this spring over last spring, so whatever we make in increased production, we're gonna pay a market charge. But then next year, they reset to this spring, to the previous spring, so hopefully it's a one-time bite. We do have additional capacity coming in the Northeast. Fairlife is building a new plant, that's all the buzz in New York. So they really, not yet, but as soon as that starts up, they think that that's gonna take more production. So in general, there's quite a few farms that are adding on, I wouldn't say huge expansions, but all the bigger guys are adding a little bit.
You know, they always say, making the products is hard, but getting rid of it, like if you know, you're making it on farm, and you said you're in 50 stores, that doesn't happen overnight. And, you know, to maintain that shelf space is probably hard. Who's in charge of that?
Well, we just fired our salesperson. So if any young person here is interested in selling milk, Eastern New York's a great place to live. We actually had a guy working for us. He had the greatest resume and worked for some huge companies, and he just wasn't getting it done. But we have gotten to the point where we have a full-time salesperson who's in charge of those relationships. We actually, it's interesting, this guy was supposedly working full-time. We got another guy to work about 10 to 15 hours a week, who said, yeah, I'll help you out a little bit